at 5 a.m.
5 a.m. So you're part of the 5 a.m. club, I guess. You're an early
Yes,
riser.
yes, right. We got to get up before the sunrise.
Good stuff. Good to know that. And we have her, and she's going to be talking to us about an unconventional career journey that she's been through, from being a finance controller to being a coach, a certified coach who supports people to create a life that they love. So, welcome, Jan, to this session
Thank
today.
you. Thank you. Thank you so much, Karuna. This is just a pleasure to be here with you. And I'm just looking forward to sharing some of my story with the goal of if it helps anyone else, if anybody else can relate to some of the things that I've gone through on my journey, I would love to share that.
Awesome, great stuff, Jan. So let us start with our conversation. And the first question that I have for you, Jan, is tell us more about your corporate career. What have you been, what was your education and how did you start with what you did in your corporate?
Yeah. So I started out my career just out of college. I went to school for accounting, a bachelor's degree in accounting from the University of Minnesota. And I always, of course, loved math, loved working with numbers and problem solving. And so it was a nice natural step for me. And I started my career as a CPA at a Big Four accounting firm at Deloitte in Minneapolis. And it was a perfect start for me. In addition, like I mentioned, loving working with problem solving and math, I also loved working with people. So I took on the role of an auditor, and it took a lot of people skills to work with people in an audit role, going to them, trying to identify what they're doing wrong is the role of an auditor. And so how to do that successfully and work with people in a way that you're not just talking down at them or pointing out all the bad things, but how you can do it in a constructive way. So that was a really neat way to start my career, as well as all the technical aspect that comes with it. And my journey in public accounting with Deloitte took me from Minneapolis to Cleveland, Ohio, spent 8 years in that arena, just learning a lot. And once I had moved around a little bit, I decided I wanted to relocate back to closer to my hometown in the Midwest. And so I decided to make the shift to corporate accounting and finance at that point. And so it was a neat transition to go from public accounting, which I like to call like a top-down approach. You're looking at things from a high level and drilling down into it, versus starting an accounting manager role in a corporate world, a smaller entrepreneurial company. That was more of a bottom-up type approach. And so my corporate career took me from a smaller company, and then I moved into corporate accounting and finance at another company that a fast-growing company, publicly traded company. So really my career in finance and accounting took a good progress in a very traditional way, but it was really good. I learned a lot, and it was the path that I expected for myself, that conventional progress of advancing through and up into higher level finance and accounting roles, and ended up in an assistant controller, assistant treasurer role at this public company, this fast growing company. So I learned a lot, just always wanting to learn and grow along the way. So it's been a great journey.
Amazing. And I think the fact that you were good at what you were doing, you were able to reach in a few years to the position of a controller, and that is something commendable. I'm sure you were an expert at the work you were doing there. So, from being an expert in the work that you did, which was so amazing, adding so much of value from a financial aspect to an organization, what made you start shifting into what you are doing right now?
Yeah. So it was uh, something that I actually didn't expect. As I mentioned, I was taking a traditional route with. I thought I would actually be in that role, that company for the rest of my career. It was a point in time several years ago, and I started feeling frustrated in terms
Mm,
of knowing that there was more. There was that sense of fulfillment, starting to realize that I was my identity. I was starting to see my identity in my role, um, in what I did, and not who I was. And that was a realization that took me a long time to really come to grips with. And when you start when you're talking to people out of work, and the only thing they really know to have a conversation about is to ask you about your work, the light bulbs start turning off. Like, wait a minute, there's more to me than this. And I think that started triggering more thoughts in terms of, where do I see myself in 5 years? Or what do I want to think about when I get to retirement and I look back? Am I going to be happy with my path? Or am I going to think, oh, I wish I would have done this, or I wish I would have done that? So those are the things that started sparking more thoughts in my mind. Um, at that point in time, I didn't even have a good sense of self-awareness of this. I just started feeling some of this pull. I like to call it the pull of potential, because there's more out there. And when I started feeling this, you start looking at other things. You look externally, like, well, maybe it's my position. Maybe I need to advance in my position, or maybe it's my location. Maybe I should move somewhere else. And you look externally. And then I started realizing, no, Jan, you need to start looking internally. It's not something that is going to be solved just by changing one thing around you, your circumstances. And so at that point in time, I decided for myself, I needed to start growing. I was stuck in my growth process. I had
mm,
grown so naturally over the years that when I reached this point, I hadn't even realized that I was stuck until I started kind of looking inward more. And so at that point is when I had started feeling some passion for leadership development, the people side of the equation. I had always worked closely with people along the way, and really enjoyed helping other people develop, and using that development of others and team development to try to accomplish the goals of the organization, the team. And so the idea of leadership development as one of my core areas that is a passion of mine came to light. And so I took it upon myself. I signed up and I joined the John Maxwell team,
nice.
heavily focused on leadership development. And it was mainly for myself at that point to really start looking inward, developing myself, and starting to get unstuck. And once I did that, when you really start being intentional about your growth, it's just I guess crazy how fast you can start moving forward again once you get.
Yeah, we start getting manifested in a certain way. So
Yeah.
I relate to so much about some thoughts that you just shared with us right now. One aspect is, I do coach a lot of mid-senior, senior level professionals, and
Mhm.
many a times they're also in that space where they worked and become an expert on a certain area for several decades, 1 2 decades. They've been doing something like you were doing, and they've reached a spot where they feel, okay, now I've outgrown what I was doing, and possibly now it's time for me to start getting unstuck. But sometimes they don't even know that what is it that they need to do to be able to get out of that. So I would like you to answer a question, and possibly that the audience might have, and who are listening to it, is how did you realize that this is what I had to do? This was the path for me. So, were there any questions that you asked, or or were there any people that you got associated with to get you to the path that you have chosen now?
Yeah, yeah. I this part of my story is kind of fun. Well, first of all, I'm a person of faith, and so in bringing that into some of these struggles as I was trying to get more clarity in where I wanted to go, bringing my faith into it was a big piece of it. And so at one point, as I was just kind of struggling with all of this, I had prayed for a mentor. I had
Wow.
realized I needed a mentor. And so as I was thinking about that, I thought, okay, I need to take some action steps. And I started thinking about, if there's another person that came to mind that I could reach out to and ask them to mentor me. And at that point in time, I didn't realize it, but I was also working on signing up for the John Maxwell team too. And little did I know that when I was praying for a mentor, I joined the John Maxwell team. I have thousands of mentors now. Just
Amazing.
surrounding yourself with like-minded people is a huge kickstart to a growth process. And so in terms of my thought of one mentor, that is good too. And now I have individual mentors that I'm working with and talking with for different areas that I'm growing in. But just even having one mentor is good. So definitely not, if you just have one mentor, that's not a bad thing. But little did I know I was going to be stepping into something that would open up the door for so many opportunities for mentorship. And so at the same time, I've also learned, and it's reinforced for me too, to be in a position to mentor others is a huge growth process as well. So I've been able to also, with my involvement with the John Maxwell team, also I've gotten involved with in a group called Empowered Living, and there's a lot of parallels with John Maxwell's team there too. But just being able to be involved in both of those communities with helping other people too. So even though I'm pretty early in my journey of the coach taking on a coaching business and that type of thing, there's a lot of other people who are earlier in the process as me. So I can take what I've learned or share where I'm at my stage and mentor others, which helps me grow immensely as well. I learn so much from that. So being able to do both, have mentors, reach out, rely on them, trust their experience and their expertise, and at the same time pass that to others as well. It's a beautiful thing being able to be part of a process like that.
Wow, this is amazing, guys. Those who are listening, see, you can see the fact that a mentor actually helped Jan change her life course and actually decide that what is the right life course for her. And of course, the first step that she took was to start with self realization, start with going inwards rather than looking outward for the answers to feeling stuck. So this is an amazing, I would say, amazing pointer, Jan, that you mentioned, because a lot of people who also reach out to me for such kind of coachings at times don't feel stuck about that, okay, what next for me? And when we support them to come and start exploring and know more about themselves, it's a self discovery process that they go through. It just changes their lives, because sometimes when we are early on, culturally we might have differences in terms of how career progresses for us, based on, you're in US and I'm in India, but many a times a lot of people pick up jobs at a very different stage in their lives. Maybe there are certain situations, or sometimes for some people, at that moment that's what they felt was right for them, and as they grow, I think they just outgrow that entire situation that they were in, and now they feel, okay, I'm ready for something else. But exploring that and finding the right thing for themselves is a inward process journey. It's a self discovery journey. And you
Absolutely.
beautifully mentioned that about doing that for yourself, and that's how it got you to connect with the mentor that you are connected to right now. That's John Maxwell, and the team that you're connected to, and the Empowered Living Group as well. So
Mhm.
lovely listening to that, Jan. Aditya says, great going. Thank you for that comment. I really love that. Let's continue with what Jan was talking about in terms of from a corporate career to making a difference. In her journey, as you see, that it was a self-discovery journey where she at a point reached, and you realize that this is what I wanted to do through a self-discovery process, and that's where I think coaches play a very, very important role for us. And having said that, it's also important to, with the coach, go through that self discovery, be committed to the fact that you'll go through a self discovery process to know more about your own self, and the more we know about our own selves, it's easy to make much more informed decisions, which we will really love to continue with. So tell us a little more about, Jan, that when you talk about picking up a coaching career now, uh,
Mhm.
you mentioned to me over my other conversations in the past that you wanted to make a difference in life, make a difference in life of other people. So tell me more about that, and let's let our audience also hear about what do you have to say on the vision that you have around this.
Yeah, yeah. So the shift into taking on coaching, and for me, the coaching takes on a couple different aspects. So I look at all of my experience, almost 30 years of experience in finance and accounting, and it's something I still love. It just moving out of that, having a direct role in finance and accounting hasn't taken that away. Just taking that experience and being able to work with finance and accounting professionals, a finance and accounting team. So being able to reach out to CEOs and CFOs and bring that part of my experience is something is still a passion of mine. And I can take the best part is combining my technical expertise, the experience that I've had over the years with processes and the best practices on ways to do things, combining that with what I think is often forgotten. As I've worked with consultants over the years, there's a lot of focus on processes, coming in, working on a project, and putting together a project plan focused on the processes or the technical changes. But quite often, the people side of the equation is forgotten. And this is where I believe I'm really passionate, because it brings together also my love of working with people and my love of being able to develop people, and being able to work with teams to be able to include the people side of the equation. And I think about, we're of course in an environment where there's a lot of things changing really fast, whether it's technology or just even in our pandemic world that we're in. There's a lot of changes that are happening really fast. And when the people that are part of a team, the people that are part of the processes that you want to have working well, if there's gaps on the people side of the equation, things are not going to work well. And so being able to combine that together and help people, coach people in that situation with meeting them whatever their needs are. So of course, when you get into a team environment, there's a lot of different aspects of where people are at. Being able to understand and work with teams on where they're at is also something that I've learned a lot about in what I've learned about coaching, and helping people understand they're fully resourced to be able to take on whatever they need to do to take things to the next level. And I think so for me, with my focus on leadership development, that's for me the aspect of leadership development that I really love to help them realize, and then in turn make sure that leaders in that area are developing their people as well. So it's not my focus. I don't want to just be able to work with people and come in and try to fix something and then walk away, but equipping leaders, equipping people to learn and grow, and then I get to step away and they get to keep going from there. So that's a lot of what I see when I think about my role as a coach, is to be able to just work through the gaps, and then I can step away and they can take the ball and run with it. The other thing too, that as I think about what I've seen in the corporate space as well, relates to gaps in the leadership pipeline. And so that's another thing that I've become really passionate about myself, is seeing and being part of the experience, being in the corporate environment when it's time to promote leaders, promote from within. There's not a huge pipeline. There's so much focus on getting the job done on a day-to-day basis that even though when a company makes leadership development and personal growth and development a priority for their employees, there's so much push and shove when it comes to all of the priorities in the course of a day of can just get pushed down on the priority list. And so I want to be able to come in and help come alongside them to take the leadership development and find ways to make it easier to integrate into their day-to-day, so they're growing on a day-to-day basis and not just going to corporate trainings and leadership trainings once a year or twice a year, but how to integrate it and get it into their everyday life. That's one thing that I've learned quite a bit with my John Maxwell trainings and teachings. John Maxwell is such a great role model as it comes down to that being able to develop other people, making sure that you have a good pipeline of leadership growth, leadership potential in a corporate environment. And you've probably heard the saying before: good leaders don't develop followers, but good leaders, great leaders, develop more leaders. And so that's a lot of what I'm focusing on, as well as I'm working with corporate teams, making sure that they're remembering that their job is to develop more leaders. That's what brings success to the company.
Interesting. Sorry, I think I lost connection a bit in between.
Yeah. I just kept on talking, Karuna.
Thank you so much. So, a very obvious question that's coming to my mind, Jan, was that when you moved, as an entrepreneur or a coach, when you moved from a role of a finance controller to a role of a coach, people know you out there in the market for decades to do a certain work of expertise. Now that you shifted into something else, how difficult and easy was that for you? And being an entrepreneur or a coach, building credibility is so important, specifically because people are coming to you because of your capability of supporting others. So how easy or difficult was it for you from shifting from here to there?
Oh, that is a great question. I think for me, it has been not an easy thing to shift. I think that a lot of what I was mentioning before, again, it's an inward thing. So my journey of shifting has been a lot of inward growth. And so when I identify myself as a finance and accounting professional, and now as a coach, trying to blend that together and not think of it separately has been a journey on how I can bring that to market in terms of who I'm talking to. And everyone who knows me from my past experience just recognizes the role I've played with being a financial controller and fulfilling that role. So being able to continue talking and staying connected with people in that space and letting them know that I'm still working with finance and accounting, but also helping to emphasize a lot of the leadership lessons and a lot of the leadership role that I played in helping other people grow throughout the years and helping and just working with groups as a external coach is a lot of the same thing that I did do previously. But I think there's just building that awareness of the role of a coach is something that a lot of people aren't aware of. So just continuing to talk to people and helping to show how the coaching aspect can really make a big difference with being able to up-level the activities of a team, an organization. On an individual basis, coaching is key as well. Like I mentioned before, you can coach teams, but at the same time, it comes down to individuals. So being able to meet individuals where they're at. And so that rebranding myself has been an ongoing process, ongoing in terms of how I can explain what I'm doing, and at the same time, helping to continue to bring awareness as I'm talking to people as well, and just helping to share stories of successful ways to combine coaching into the finance and accounting environment. So, and coaching the leaders how to become coaches as well. So even though you don't have a title as a coach, as a leader, you have a role as a coach. And so being able to explain that as well.
Yeah, so even if the role is something else, there are a lot of capabilities one would have developed over a course of time, whether it's in terms of people management or any other capability, which helps be sensitive enough to the needs of what a coach might need to do. So I think very important, Jan. What are some other ways that you keep yourself abreast so that you're well learned about the coaching field and which you're kind of new to right now?
Yeah. So I for me, I need to be very intentional about just continuing to grow, put myself into growth programs as well. So I am in mastermind groups myself. So one thing that I offer with my trainings and my leadership development, a lot of the topics, the format is in a mastermind group. But at the same time, I'm in mastermind groups myself to just continue growing and being around people that are growing. I mentioned I have mentors that I'm working with. I have coaches that I have hired as well for my own growth and development. And so being mindful of the fact that everything that I am encouraging others to do with their growth, I'm doing the same thing as well. Reading books, staying up to date on understanding what issues people are dealing with, and staying in tune with that is very key as well.
Very interesting. So, Jan, what are some interesting books that you would like to recommend to us?
Oh, I have currently, I read a lot of John Maxwell books, of course, but I read a lot of other books too. But one of them, I'll give you one of the most recent John Maxwell books that I've read, and that's The Leader's Greatest Return. That's one of his most recent books. And that one has been I've been really in tune with that, because it's a lot about focusing on the return, the fact that not only financially there's a good return of having great leaders leading an organization, but just the return in many ways. So being in the corporate world, my mind always goes to return on investment, and just really understanding the benefit of having good leadership. So The Leader's Greatest Return has been a really good book, and it's really been in tune with understanding how to help leaders, help train leaders build teams that create more leaders, and that multiplication effect creates a compounding effect. There's a synergy that happens when leaders are developing leaders. So it's a topic I love. Another book that I can recommend, and many people have possibly read it already, because it's been a book that's been around for a long time, but I think it's a book that it's a great one to just pull out and just read it once a year. But it's As a Man Thinketh by James Allen. And again, it's that inward focus and understanding what I'm thinking inside of me is what I will realize. That drives my thoughts, drive my actions. And so, especially on my business building journey, it's not an easy thing. And there's a lot of mindfulness, which you focus on, that as you coach others too. There's always new obstacles and new barriers, and being aware of what I am putting on myself in terms of being self-aware of some of my own barriers, or just areas that where I'm lacking confidence or fear is holding me back, being in tune with that so I can call it what it is and navigate through that. So As a Man Thinketh by James Allen has been a great book for me for that.
Amazing. And I think, Jan, in my opinion, actually, entrepreneurship is a spirit, if I look at it, because it is all about the founder of the organization and the personality of the founder, how the person is ready to innovate, shift their own mindsets. It all reflects in the business that they do.
Yes, absolutely. I totally agree with that. And so that, I guess I would say then the third book. So for me, I mentioned I'm a person of faith. So the Bible for me has been a book that there are so many leadership lessons. Even, I'm not saying that you have to be a person of faith like me, but if anybody wants some great leadership lessons, you could go to the Bible and get some great leadership lessons too.
Very interesting. And I really love the books that you've talked about. I've not read all of them, but yes, would love to read the ones that you shared with me. So, a question that comes to my mind right now, Jan, is that when we shift from a corporate job to a business, and to some extent you've answered a few thoughts here, but to compile the thoughts, I would like to ask this question specifically. When we shift from a job to business, there are certain changes we have to bring in for our own selves, where one, of course, aspect is that we want to become more self-aware. And in my opinion, for example, entrepreneurship is a spiritual journey. But what are some skills that you had to develop over a period of time when you were shifting from a corporate role to a business?
Yeah, there were a lot of new skills as an entrepreneur, wearing all of the hats of all of the different aspects of a business has been a very interesting thing for me. I think I've found that Google is my best friend. Being able to just search something as I have questions, there's a lot of people I can reach out to and ask questions to who have been on a similar business journey. But being able to just understand how I can just look something up, if it's Googling or whatever. I don't know if that's a real skill, but
it's all about being resourceful, using the resources that you have.
Yeah, it's crazy, just how much I've learned from, I'll just look that up. And if I can't figure it out myself, I'll ask somebody or I'll reach out or hire somebody to help me. But there's a lot of things that you can figure out just by Googling it, just because there's so many different hats that an entrepreneur wears. And but there's a lot of other skills too, just how to, I think, coming from finance and accounting, I haven't necessarily been in an environment where I've had to work on sales, and I've dealt a lot with contracts and stuff like that, but being in a selling environment, a marketing environment, hasn't necessarily been as much my focus in the past. So that's been a new skill that I've been learning as well.
And how was your experience?
Well, so far so good. But like you said, it's a spiritual journey, so it comes back to mindset. So the first thought when you think of those things that you're not experienced in, especially at this point in a career after 30 years, a lot of things really well, and there's a lot of things you don't know as well. So then your mindset kicks in and you tell yourself, well, I don't know how to do that. And how fast you can get stuck with just, oh, I don't know that, so I guess maybe I can't do it. Those are the things you have to backpedal on and tell yourself, I can learn it. or I
Yeah, so
can
it's
have.
all about mindset, isn't it?
Yep.
Having the growth mindset, where you're looking at each aspect more like a challenge to overcome. It's like a fun game to overcome and build up on that. So I
Yes.
remembered in sales, coming from an HR background myself. I was fairly unaware of how to go about sales, even though I believe that even whatever function you might be in, convincing people is a sales skill. Even saying convincing people is a lot about selling the concept as well. But when it came to hardcore sales, I was scared for a very, very long time, because being on the other side of the table, I had, even though being a HR person, knowing psychology, uh, it was, a huge amount of self discovery to really
Mhm.
figure out that why am I scared to go and sell at the end of the day. So, have
Right.
it in your own self is what came out of that ultimate conversation I had with my own self, because
Mhm.
which meant that it was more about trusting my own self that I can do it, and the solutions that I'm creating are of value to other people.
Mhm.
So that was something that I had to work on myself. And the moment I felt that yes, I can do it, it was easy for me to I can deliver the solutions. Actually, it was easy for me to sell the solutions also.
Right.
It came in as that I had to trust my own self that I can deliver what I'm talking. Have faith in my own self. So those were some things I personally learned, during my entrepreneurial journey. Even though I had so many years of experience in the corporate also, but it's been very interesting talking to you, Jan, about how unconventional your career has been, and how you shifted from a role which was so process oriented to people orientation, to a structured format, to now dealing with human potential and capability, which is so it might be untapped. There is so much to unleash at the end of the day. It's so amazing to know about how your journey has been. So tell us, Jan, more about how can we find you, if somebody wants to connect with you.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, excellent. I have a website,
Mhm.
and that website is my last name, Degallier Leadership Solutions.com,
Okay.
www.degallierleadershipsolutions.com. So there's a way to contact me through my website, but also I can just give you my email address too. I love to hear from people, and jan.degallier@gmail.com is my email address, or I'm on LinkedIn. Reach out. I would love to connect over LinkedIn as well.
Okay, that's awesome. So I'm going to leave some social contacts of yours on the link in the LinkedIn Live chat box, so people can connect with you and know more about. And if they want to connect directly, feel free to write any questions that you might have for Jan, and any
Mm-hmm.
questions that you might have for me. I'm happy to help. Happy to answer those questions. And Jan, I would want you to, on a concluding note, share some points about what are some things that people should keep in mind when they're looking at moving from one career to building up on an unconventional career. Some high level tips that you might have for them.
Oh, yeah, I would love to share that, because I would have loved to have heard that as I was at that point of making those types of decisions. But I guess the tips that I would share would be, first of all, trust in your intuition. So if you're feeling that pull of potential, that there's something more for you, to figure out, do some work, do some of that inward work, and figure out what you're passionate about. What is it that is that potential that you're getting pulled towards? Because if you are thinking that there's more for you, then there's more for you. And so work on being intentional about your growth. Put together a growth plan and find ways. Surround yourself with people who are doing some of those things that you are interested in doing, and you will start to grow. And even though you might not know the path exactly how it looks for you and exactly your destination in the process, as you take each step of the way, your path and your journey will be revealed for you, and it will start taking a bigger picture, a fuller picture. So when you start out, you know there's something there, but you just have to start taking the steps forward, and you can start building and developing that plan out. So trusting that process, I think, would be the recommendation and the feedback that I would give. And be intentional. Don't just think that, well, I can't do it, or I'm not resourced to do it, and not do anything. Be intentional and actually do it, because you'll be surprised at what you can accomplish.
Wow, I love the pointers that you've given, and I must say that these make so much sense. Whether it is trusting your own self, keep taking the steps, and also being intentional and conscious about where your direction is being. Is beautiful. So guys who are listening to this, I think she is sharing some golden nuggets right now with you. Do feel free to add your comments, views, and questions, and we will be happy to answer those for you. So thank you so much, Jan. It was a beautiful conversation that we've had. And thank you so much for the 5 a.m. conversation, early morning conversation that you have had with us.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you, Karuna. This is really wonderful, and I wish you all the best, and everyone you're working with. I really wish you great growth.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure, Jan, and I wish you with more power. Keep rocking and keep coaching people.
Excellent. Thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for listening up. And those who will watch in later as well, do feel free to add your comments and questions. And Jana and I would be very happy to take up those questions and answer them for you. Signing off for now. Thank you so much. Bye-bye. Thank you, Jan. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.